Every year, thousands of goods are sent using road freight to and from Rio Tinto sites in Western Australia. Typically, freight travels significant distances and passes through several handling points before it reaches its final destination. What may be considered sufficient packaging for a metro delivery will generally not be appropriate for freight dispatched to the northwest of Western Australia. Items packed tightly in sea containers that may be wedged in with other pieces of freight become unsafe. Even a metal strap over an item on a softwood pallet would be in a poor state before reaching its final destination. This presents a hazard to employees receiving goods, transport providers who handle the freight, and other road users. Poorly packaged freight may even put general public at risk. Poor packaging practices need to stop now. If we work together, we can ensure in the future that we eliminate the risk of damaging the goods, negatively impacting on the environment or harming people.
We need to see a culture shift. Too many times we're seeing poorly prepared freight that arrives on site in a state that's not fit for use. As a result of this, we incur additional downtime that is entirely avoidable by just spending time and effort at the beginning of the process. We have to improve our freight preparation, not only freight that Rio Tinto suppliers send to Rio Tinto sites, but similarly freight that Rio Tinto sites send to our suppliers for remanufacturing or repair. Part of the culture change we need to see involves extra care taken in the preparation of freight. We need to ensure that freight reaches its final destination, having posed no risk to people involved in the handling of that freight, and similarly members of the general public. We also need to ensure that that freight reaches its final destination in the same state that it was dispatched in.
Good packaging practices includes freight that can withstand high-speed road transport over rough terrain, can be safely lifted on and off transport vehicles, and avoids unnecessary manual handling, minimises the risk of injury to those involved in freight and handling, minimises the risk of damage to that particular item, minimises the risk of damage to other freight, other road users or the general public, is appropriately labelled including weight and lifting requirements, hazardous materials are identified and special handling requirements are clearly noted.
It's really important that Rio Tinto is taking steps to work with its suppliers to prepare freight adequately. New chain of responsibility laws that are coming into play at the end of this year or early 2008 will fundamentally affect the way that freight must be prepared. Essentially all parties involved in the transport chain, including suppliers and consignors and their managers, must take responsibility for adequately preparing freight. There isn't a single person who won't be impacted by these new laws.
Heavy vehicle laws once only looked at the freight company and the vehicle driver. Under the new legislation, any party with control in the movement of goods can be liable for breaches of the law. If an incident did occur, would your organisation be able to show it had taken all reasonable steps to eliminate the risk of a breach of the law? In conjunction with the impending implementation of Chain of Responsibility legislation in Western Australia, Rio Tinto Procurement is well advanced in implementing a broad program aimed at improving road safety. As part of this program, Rio Tinto has released a freight preparation policy to assist all suppliers to understand the minimum requirements and ensure improvement in the compliance with legal mass, dimension and load restraint requirements. Some suppliers are already working with Rio Tinto to develop specific guidelines for goods regularly sent via road freight to the Pilbara.
I've been working with Ed from Rio on what we can do to improve the freight. Some of the good points he had was chains over the cylinder stands, lock nuts on engine mountings, hydraulic pumps to go in the steel boxes instead of the typical wooden box. The problem was that the trucks go up the dirt roads, the vibration is more than the wooden stands could handle or boxes could handle, and the freight invariably arrived at site damaged. We've found that with using steel boxes, for instance, when they get to site, they're in one piece. The same box is used many times over, and in the long run it probably saves us some money.
The work we've been doing with Rio Tinto to improve the freight handling is providing better freight dispatch products, whether they be transport frames or pallets. We're packaging the product for transport up north in a far more safe way. So in conjunction with Rio Tinto, we've developed a steel pallet, which is a pretty good product at the moment. It came about because of the freight that was coming down was atrocious, and it was really dangerous for the roads, really.
Rio Tinto has prepared a self-audit tool to assist you to review your compliance to our freight preparation policy. This policy will form part of all future contracts. Good freight preparation and systems of freight management will form part of the assessment of all sourcing activities. Rio Tinto is also working to improve how it prepares freight for return from site to ensure its own compliance. We recognise we all have room to improve.
As a group, we are now much more aware of our responsibilities on handling freight. We don't only now leave it up to our RTP or stores people. As workshops and as people that send freight back, we are now responsible for getting it on the back of the truck. We don't just hope and get it on the back of the truck and then hope it doesn't fall off. Everyone across the business is aware that the new standards that apply, whether they be state standards, Rio Tinto standards or Pilbara Iron standards, we have to comply to those standards.
The end result of all this is now that we consider that Rio Tinto is the front runner, and we consider that down the track other companies will be forced, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, to accept the same sort of practice, because it is a good practice what we're doing now.
We know that we send freight to site that's going to arrive safely, one piece, not damaged. That's what it's all about.
As a superintendent, as a tradesman, as a planner, as a stormer, we have to do it right. If we don't do it right, we could hurt someone, and that's the last thing we want to do.